Good. That's good.
Like your new little in-laws, huh?
So far.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's been good. Our biggest thing is my son was on his homecoming day, knocked 4 of his teeth in, and so
dear.
we're going through that this weekend.
Hey,
It's been
Mike.
crazy.
I have you for the prayer. Is the prayer okay? Well, that's bad.
Yeah, so.
Gee, well, I guess we better go ahead and get started. We've got 5 of us here, so. Are you ready? Okay. We would like to welcome you to our Planning Commission meeting this evening. This is Planning Commission meeting for September 28th, right, 2021. This meeting is being recorded, and we're going to begin our meeting this evening with an opening prayer from Commissioner Marchbanks, and then a pledge of allegiance from Commissioner Showers.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee at the beginning of this Planning Commission meeting, and we give thee thanks for the blessings and freedoms that we have, Father in heaven, for the blessing we have to live here in Lindon City and be able to have good neighbors and friends, Father in heaven. We pray that we will be about our city's business this evening and carry it out according to the laws and ordinances that we have on our books, Father in heaven. Again, we thank thee for those that serve us and that serve in the military and for all the blessings of this free country. And we say these things humbly in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We will begin our meeting this evening with an audible roll call of the commissioners. Sharon Call, here. Mike Marchbanks.
Here.
Jared Showers.
Here.
Rob Callis. Stephen Johnson.
Here.
And Scott Thompson. That's right. Okay, he's excused. And then Renee Tribe. Here. Okay. We'll begin our meeting this evening. We do have Councilman Van Cherry with us this evening, and appreciate you being here. We'll begin with the approval of the minutes. These are the minutes from September 14th, 2021. Commissioners have received those ahead of time, had a chance to review those. Are there any changes or corrections? Okay. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Okay, item number 3 on our agenda. This is a time for public comment. This would be for any items that are not already on the agenda for this evening. Okay. We've got a big crowd here tonight. Okay, item number 4, this is a plat amendment for Lindon Treasury, Plat F. And this is at 102 South, 140 West. And our presenting staff is Mary Barnes. And
If we could also just, if I could just bring up that item number 6 tonight, the concept plan that's been pulled from the agenda.
okay,
Request of the applicant. So
okay. And I had that down, but we need to do that right at the first then.
I just wanted to let you guys know. So
Okay. Item number 6 has, the concept review has been pulled from the agenda. Okay, and our applicant is Millhaven Construction, LLC. And I don't know if they have anyone, is that you, sir? Yes. Do you want to come up to the front? And what is your name, sir?
Todd Train.
Okay. and we'll let Mary go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioners. All right, so this item concerns Lot 18 in the new Lindon Treasury Plat F located there. So there's two addresses. So this south property is 102 South, 140 West, and this north property is 163 West, 110 South in the residential R120 zone. So you actually might recognize this north end. The plat here was just recently, the recently approved Lindon Treasury Plat D. So as you can see, here, I'll zoom out a little bit. As you can see in this Plat F, this plat amendment will consolidate the property of Wade and Danelle Thompson. They currently have a house here and they want this property line. They want to consolidate with this back property that they have. Prior to this plat amendment, there were two separate plats. So this is Plat A of the existing development. And this is the property line we're looking at. And then the aforementioned Plat D. So this is the lot that is gonna, that we're asking to connect with this Lot 10 Plat A. In fact, Lot 18, which is the lot that we're looking at tonight, is one of the lots that led in the change for the double frontage ordinance. So the reason why the property owners want this is that they want to add improvements to their property as seen in this attached site plan. Zoom out a little bit. There you go. So this is their existing home. Here's the property line. And this is what they want to happen on their property. So currently the applicant is working to secure approval from the utility companies to abandon the public utility easement that is currently running straight through Lot 18. And the Planning Commission is the final land use authority on these plat amendments. So, with all that being said, the staff recommends the following conditions and motions. The applicant will continue to work with city staff to make all technical corrections as necessary to the plat prior to recording. Prior to plat recording, the applicant will update the final plat Mylar to include notarized signatures of owner's consent to dedication and obtain signatures of all entities indicated on the subdivision plat attached hereto and all items of the staff report.
Okay, any discussion, or would you like to add anything to that?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory. Did a great job.
Thank you.
Wasn't this the plat that had been divided before or something, and then it had to be, what was?
This is the lot in the back is the new subdivision that Millhaven Homes
Yeah.
got approval for 6 months ago or so. And then now we're just consolidating those two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this wasn't prior, the two parcels weren't priorly connected. Mr. Thompson purchased the new lot and decided to consolidate the two. So that wasn't
Okay.
ever one lot that he divided. It was
Okay.
two separate lots.
Okay,
We did the same thing next door
okay,
on
that's,
Mr. Yeah, we
yeah,
did.
that's why
We
I,
did,
Jeremy had
yes,
this
we did
parcel.
Jeremy's lot, and I think this was anticipated that they want to do the same thing.
that's probably what,
The only question I have, do you know if that back easement has got anything in it? Is that going to be difficult to?
No, and in fact, we have almost all of the signatures from the utility companies. I'm waiting on one.
Okay,
So I'll submit those.
I didn't
once we
think
have
they
it.
had used that rear
Yeah.
easement, but,
Yeah, to our knowledge, there's nothing in there, and I've got notarized letters from everyone but one
Okay.
utility company so far, so.
okay.
okay. Any discussion with the commissioners?
Seems like when we talked about this once before, there were some things in our Lindon city ordinances about frontage on two locations. What was the discussion there? I can't remember.
So this project is what led to that updated ordinance. And so they wanted to get that ordinance updated first, then come back for the plat amendment.
Yeah.
So now, basically, they can access off of the other frontage, but they've gotta set the fence back. If it's a solid masonry fence, they've gotta add landscaping. If it's solid, they've gotta keep clear view areas.
Okay.
So I guess I'm assuming that ordinance was passed by the city council.
It was, yes.
Okay.
So we'll follow that ordinance that was passed, yes.
And there weren't any corrections to what we recommended?
There was not.
Okay.
It's like a real nice setup.
Yeah, it does.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to approve the applicant's request for plat amendment approval of the Lindon Treasury Plat F with the noted 3 conditions.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous.
I'm the next one as well, so I'll just stay here.
All right. Let us get to that. Right, this is with Millhaven Construction also.
Mhm.
Okay. This is the city pressurized irrigation system relief petition at 578 North, 800 East. And our presenting staff is Michael Florence, and our applicants, Millhaven Construction.
Thanks, Commissioners. You'll probably remember this parcel as well. This is the one you gave some exemptions to the hillside ordinance for, as well as you recently approved a subdivision to consolidate the 2 parcels there into one lot. So Millhaven Homes is asking for a recommendation to the city council to, for a relief petition for the property, the 1.74 acres that has a 40% slope that they can't irrigate. So they're asking for that to be reduced from their water shares that they have to dedicate to the city. So when the city, when property's subdivided, so let's say they subdivide a 1 acre property, they have to turn in 1 acre of North Union shares or the equivalent of 1 acre of North Union shares, or pay a fee in lieu of turning in water shares. And so for this property, they'd be required to turn in 4.47 acres. That's the size of the property there. But you can see on this plan that the areas in red have a slope of 40% or greater on those hillsides. And so it was recommended that those not be irrigated due to the increased erosion potential, because if the property's watered, that could increase the erosion on the site. And so they want to leave that in a natural habitat, keep it how it is. And so they are asking to, this is 1.74 acres that's in the red. So they are asking to have that reduced off their water shares that are required to be turned in, or the fee in lieu paid. And so they will still be paying on 2.73 acres of the property that is usable for landscaping. So, so again, you're making a recommendation to the city council on this item. Let me go through a couple. Mr. Train provided this petition to the city. They're required to go through a number of questions through that, asking about the property, when it was purchased, what water rights come with the property. There weren't any that came with the property. Let's see, any studies that were completed for water shares, any title reports showing water shares, and so none of those came back that there was any water shares on the property. And then, the purpose of the water dedication is to provide water to the lot for irrigation, and so they're asking for that reduction to only pay on the 2.73 acres. So with that, Commissioners, I'd be glad to answer any questions along with Mr. Train.
Just for my own education, what is the cost for a water share? or what would be the difference on cost?
Yeah, one share of North Union is going for 21,000 right now.
Wow,
And so if you pay a fee in lieu, the city charges 95% of what the water brokers are charging. They're charging the 21,000. So the fee to the city for one share would be 19,950, I believe.
so you're talking over $30,000 difference, is that,
Between,
because the 1.74 that you
Yeah.
wouldn't be paying for?
so I think the total was 88,000, if I
Something
remember
like that.
correctly.
Is that
That would be the total for the 4.7
Oh,
that we
okay.
had. And then the reduced would be in the 50-something range, if I
Oh,
remember
but,
correctly.
that's what I said,
Yeah,
less,
30,000
30,000
yeah.
less or something.
But if they gave full shares, they still wouldn't be able to use them because.
Mm-mm.
Correct.
Mm.
So if you remember, commissioners, when we came before you for the subdivision, this came up, the water dedication came up, and the issue is we're being asked not to improve, to leave that all natural, not to
Right.
put any water up on it, but we're being asked to provide the water to irrigate it. And so we just felt like, to be fair, we'll provide the water that we would actually use. And so that's what this petition is for that reduction.
Okay.
So in your
And-
staff report, I provided chapter 13.19 gives the process for asking for this petition of relief. So you're making that recommendation to the city council, who would make that final approval.
Have we had others in the city that we've done it recently? I
Not
can't-
recently, no, it's been quite a few years, yeah.
But we haven't approved hillside ordinances quite like this either. So, and I'm just looking through this again, this 13.19.040. Does it give us the ability or the right, do we have, can we approve that?
You cannot, so you're making a recommendation to the city council,
So the city council would be the one that would have to approve it?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, we can make that, approve that recommendation,
Yes,
but
that you're
that's it.
required to, under that section, to make a recommendation, positive or negative, to the city council.
Okay, and then they would have to determine it,
Yeah,
okay. I don't know, to me, it sounds like
Yeah, you
it
just put,
should be,
you put yourself
approved.
in their shoes, and do you wanna buy water for
That you
property
can't
you can't use? Kinda seems-
you won't ever be able to
No,
use,
uh-uh.
no.
Such unique topography, it should be considered, right?
Well, it's mandated, because of the slope, that it cannot be watered,
Yeah, so
so.
It can't be used in any way, no.
I don't even know if you can can you do any planting for erosion control as far as arid plants not requiring water?
Our client is proposing to leave it 100% natural, not do any improvements, no grading, no irrigation, no planting at all. The only thing that he is proposing is just to remove some of the dead that's on
Yeah.
it and just clean it up that way. But the plan is to leave it as natural as possible.
And I think that's the intent of the hillside ordinance, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not have it disturbed.
Yeah.
our landscaping plan here, everything in red is staying undisturbed in those areas. If they make any changes to the landscape plan, then they have to come back to you according to the hillside ordinance to get approval for landscaping changes.
Even if they were to plant, like Mike said, arid plants or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if they were to try to rehab the natural vegetation, they
Uh-huh.
replace what's there, they wouldn't need to come back to you, but if they wanna start adding trees and things like that, they'd have to come back to you.
Well, if it didn't have water, I don't know what would grow
Yeah,
up there.
So we're just asking for the recommendation to reduce it because obviously we feel like being asked to provide the water and then not being able to use it is not fair, so.
Okay. I feel like that's what we should recommend, but any other input from the commissioners? Okay.
I agree.
Do we have a motion for recommendation
I can make the motion.
then? Okay.
I move to recommend approval of the applicant's petition of relief of water share dedication for the property located at 578 North, 800 East, with the following conditions. A, the applicant has met the requirements for presenting information to be submitted with a relief petition. B, due to the 40% or greater slopes on the property and potential for hillside sliding if the slopes become saturated from irrigation, that the applicant not be required to turn in the water shares or pay a fee in lieu of shares for portions of the property with slopes of 40% or greater, which equals 1.74 acres. C, the applicant will turn in water shares or pay the fee in lieu of water shares to cover the remaining 2.73 acres for the Honeycomb Heights subdivision plat. And D, all items of the staff report.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting's unanimous. Now let's
Todd?
see what the city council
I have this
does.
going to city council next Monday, if that works for you.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Yep, I'll be there. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
And I asked Mike this afternoon, I said, why we're the land use authority, why can't we just go ahead and approve it? And I guess it's just part of the ordinance that we can only recommend it,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. You can approve the home to go on the hillside, any exemptions from the hillside. You can approve the subdivision, but
We can't
Water.
approve the,
yeah, I think it's
The
a,
water
I think it's
shares?
an old
Yeah.
code. It's from the 90s, so that's probably just something that hasn't been updated with the rest of the codes.
okay. And then item number 6, we already discussed that. That's been pulled from the agenda for this evening. And item number 7 is a public hearing, so we do need a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The voting is unanimous. Okay, and this is item number 7. It's an ordinance amendment for massage establishments. And the applicant is Lindon City. Our presenting staff is Michael Florence and Brian Hawes. Is Brian here with
Brian,
us?
I can't get the camera to work, but Brian is on audio.
Oh,
so-
okay, okay. Okay, and we'll let you go ahead.
Ready to go with any questions you might have.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Commissioners. So, what we're proposing is some changes to the business license code. This will be a new section. It'll be under set Title 5, which 5.30 regarding massage establishments. The Utah County cities have recently seen an increase in illegal activities from massage establishments, and so there would, so what we're proposing, Brian has researched some best practices and minimum standards to ensure that reputable businesses can successfully operate in the city. So we're proposing that a new massage establishment ordinance be recommended to the city council. So I've went through just on your summary page there, giving you some highlights of the ordinance. I'll go through kind of the high-level chapters on this. So a business license would be required just like any other business in the city. A state license would also be required for the business as well as employees. So that's done through the Department of Professional Licensing, just like if it was a barber or, hair salon, anything like that, they're all required to have DOPL licenses. It provides items that will be required as part of the business license application. Qualifications for the license. Basically, the person's got to be at least 21 years of age, no convictions of crimes involving moral turpitude within the past 5 years, current state of Utah driver's license, be a citizen of the United States, or be authorized to work within the United States by the Department of Homeland Security, submit copies of their state licenses, and complete a background check. So the standard land use table already outlines where those massage establishments are provided. So this is just copying that same language, so they're already allowed in the Commercial General A, CGA 8, Commercial General S, and MC and LI zones. And then massage are not allowed as a home occupation business.
Mike, is that the current rule? That they're not allowed as a home occupation, or is that new to this ordinance?
That is new to this ordinance. We wanted to make it clear. In the 20 years that I've prosecuted in Lindon, we've had 2 massage parlors that we prosecuted for illicit activities, and both of those have taken place in private residences. Now, I will note they did not have a home occupation license, but we want to make sure that these types of activities are taken in the appropriate commercial setting, not in our residential neighborhood. So this is new.
Okay, and maybe I'll wait till later, but I'd like to discuss that some more once we go through this.
Okay. Sanitation requirements, so just, making sure that they meet health regulations, that the place is clean, the patrons are groomed, as well, and covered up with clothing, and hours of operation, so they would be prohibited from operating between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. There's a list of prohibited acts there in the ordinance. Basically, these have to do with making sure that they are licensed with the state of Utah, with DOPL, that their employees have a DOPL license, then it covers different activities such as no alcohol on site, about where you can touch as a massage therapist, and different activities as well. So any questions on those prohibited areas or prohibited acts?
Well, I'll let you finish and then I'll
Okay.
ask some questions.
And then the ordinance goes through a denial, suspension, revocation, and appeals process. So if the city were to deny an application or suspend it, then it gives a process that the applicant can go through and appeal that process if they desire. So with that, Brian and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
So, some people may cut hair in their homes from time to time. If a massage therapist does the same type of thing in his home, that's a violation
Yes.
under this ordinance.
We would not license them to do that out of the home with this ordinance.
Okay.
And also, I just read this bullet point here, that massage establishments are only allowed as a secondary use.
Yes, I should have went over that. Yes,
Could you
thank you.
explain that to me?
Yeah, so basically, they have to coordinate with, or go into business or be a rent space as a secondary use in a building. So they're allowed to go up to a maximum 25%. Let me find that real quick. So it says the operation of massage establishments may not occupy more than 20% of the total square footage of the structure or facility which houses the massage facility and other primary commercial uses. So they need to go in with another primary use. This is something, when I was with South Salt Lake, we had a ton of problems with massage establishments there. I probably closed down no less than 10 establishments in my time there because of illegal activities that were happening. So what this is trying to do is have more eyes on the business, basically, than just having a massage establishment. So what it's doing too is saying that this is the secondary use. So one thing we had a problem with in South Salt Lake was that we said they had to have a secondary use in, or second use in with them. So what they would do is set up just a table in the corner for nails, and then the rest would just be for the massage establishment. And so, it didn't rectify the problem we were having there as having more, eyes on the business for illegal activity, so.
It seems like, as I recall, the ones, I can kind of remember when they had several that they had to shut down here in Lindon. And it seems like the massage business was a front for other activities. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with those specific examples. But like, for example, the chiropractor I go to, he's got massage therapists that, have tables and a room in there, but the chiropractor's the primary use of that business or that facility.
Or a physical therapist.
Physical therapist, yeah. Could-
Day spas commonly will have a massage element in association with it.
Right.
All of those would be permitted. We're just trying to make the focus of this, that be a secondary use. There's some research that, there's a group called the Polaris Group that deals specifically with human trafficking. And massage parlors are the second highest purveyor of human trafficking next to the escort services throughout the United States. And where we have seen a number of massage parlors that are specifically here in Utah County even, are specifically associated with human trafficking. They bring in these young ladies, typically from Asia, with promises that they're going to be working in hotels, in restaurants, as nannies, and then they get here and they force them, they take away their travel documents, and they force them into this type of behavior, the illicit behavior. And in these massage parlors, it's the second largest group on how they're employing these individuals. So there really is a strong need to make sure that we're curtailing massage parlors, and those that are coming in are doing it in a legitimate, above board way.
So I guess my question here is, I know a number of upstanding Lindon residents who, a couple of them make their living doing massages out of their home. That's their source of income. So I guess I just see a big difference, and maybe you can explain the reasoning, behind someone getting a home occupation and the limits that brings in, and running a big massage parlor where the illegal activity sometimes happens.
Going back to this group, this Polaris group who's done this study, they indicate in their study that there are approximately between 9,000 to 13,000 illicit massage parlors throughout the United States. They didn't break it down state by state, but out of that number, there's between 75 to 80% of those are taking place in in-home parlors, and so it's just a huge issue. And that's why we drafted it the way we did. Mike, I think we're certainly open to seeing maybe if we could modify something to allow legitimate, but that is the concern, that the vast majority of these illicit parlors are taking place in residential neighborhoods.
Right, I guess my concern is, let's take my profession, an accountant. I bet you could name most tax fraud happens through accountants, right? So are we gonna close down all the accountants that don't? I see a problem. I do see there's a problem to address. I do worry that we're eliminating without the voice of these people, right? I don't know if any of these people have been notified or had any input on this, that do this as a profession.
Legitimate.
As a legitimate profession. And I understand that there's problems with it, but I just a little bit concerned that we aren't maybe having their input or their voice in this, as we're considering it, and I'd kind of like to hear,
Do we have a lot of folks with a, business license in Lindon that are doing home massage? Do we have that data?
Yeah, I can look it up real quick. I'm not aware of any that are licensed, but let me look
May
that
not
up
have a
real quick.
business license.
Well, they may not be licensed, yeah.
Business licenses.
maybe, yeah.
And even if they were,
Yeah.
Same thing.
I think there's a correlation between those who are renting a home and doing this kind of activity. This actually happened 2 doors down from me in Orem. And those who own the home, and I don't know if we'd go so far as to say you have to own the home to be able to do massage therapy in your home, but I think there's a strong correlation between rentals and massage therapy in
Right.
the home.
That's something that would, we could certainly look into. That's a good point. I appreciate that point.
is this ordinance similar to the other cities around us? The reason I ask is because, I have a neighbor that is a massage therapist in Provo, and I've been to their clinic at one time, and it's like 3 or 4 therapists that work together, but it isn't a secondary business.
In their home?
No, it's not in their home, but it's not a secondary business either.
Like a business condo or something like that?
That
I
is
think
their
that-
business.
It does.
You-
Says it has to be
in
secondary.
a commercial
Right.
area.
Right, so that's my
So,
concern.
I mean, like
is-
a national company like Massage Envy. Would they not be able to do that?
Under this ordinance, they have to have some other, legitimate uses that are allowed under the zone that they're applying for. When we drafted this, we did do a survey. I don't have that right in front of me if I included Provo's ordinance, but we did do a survey. We looked at American Fork, Pleasant Grove, Orem, we looked at South Salt Lake, a number of ordinances. I don't believe we actually specifically looked at Provo, but so this is a conglomeration of, we took what we felt was the best from each of those cities' ordinances and incorporated it into this.
So it looks like we have 3 massage businesses that are home occupations.
Okay. Well, maybe I know 2 of them.
And they do, and they do have a
And they have
business
a business
license.
license?
But
They do.
new ones would not, if we were to pass it as it's currently drafted, new applications would not be allowed.
So these 3 would be allowed to stay.
I think it's a
Right.
little too strict. I mean, I deal with national companies, like, I'm using Massage Envy. They're a national company that's all they do is massages. We would not be able to allow them to come into Lindon under this ordinance. And they're
Yeah,
very reputable.
under the current language, they have to have another secondary use. Now, is that all that Massage Envy does, is just massages?
Yeah.
Then yeah, they would not be allowed under this current language.
And I thought I read when I was reading through this that, if they have a business license, they are pretty regulated by the state. Yeah. Current license issued by the state of Utah.
It's the DOPA license.
Right, the state is really focused on the practice of the massage itself. They don't regulate a whole lot about, how the specific locations are maintained and operated.
Oh, okay.
So that is a concern. So,
Right.
so
And
just
as,
relying on the state alone has not, has not stopped a lot of these recent, issues from coming
It's-
into our community.
in my experience in working with the state, they did very, very little. We couldn't
As far
get
as
them to.
regulating.
Right.
I also worry if we make it so strict and just, there's gonna be a lot of underground,
Yeah,
Let's talk about some options. What would you like to see then?
One problem I have is that someone gets their license they're licensed to be a massage therapist, and all of a sudden, we've thrown nefarious intent on them, and they can't do it out of their home. And that's not their intent, you know, we think everyone's gonna go down a bad path with this, and that's not true, and so we're penalizing them not to be able to run a business out of their home.
Yeah, I worry about not allowing it in home occupations and requiring it to be secondary.
So
I
would
mean,
you,
I think those two, I mean, I worry a little bit. I
Like in the
let's
massage
just talk,
envy case.
let's just talk about home occupation real quick. Do you want to, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, or jump in, I mean, would you want to make that a conditional use? You know, as a home occupation?
Maybe, whereas, that's how we do childcare, or
That's what you do for
we
childcare?
do conditional use for them.
They would have to have a business license.
Yeah. And then would review their operation and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
That,
just something that we can look at it, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
But then who, I mean, they have a business license, but then who would make sure they're functioning?
That'd be Mary's job.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that the two of your, is that both of your jobs to make sure they're functioning legitimately as a
You
business?
probably
Yeah.
never get
Well-
rid of it unless you just disallow them all, but.
I mean, our job, really what they do is the detectives start, you know, they'll start getting complaints.
Right.
You know, they'll start sending people in, and
The neighbors notice
Yeah, the neighbors.
unusual activity and such.
Well, and if we put them through a conditional use process, the neighbors will end up being notified,
yeah.
so they'll know what's going on.
That's right. And they'll be on alert.
They'll be on alert and, you know, as part of that, they'll know that. I like that approach because it doesn't just shut it down for those who, I mean, there are some,
Yeah.
it's a legitimate,
It's a legitimate skill and service, and they've gone to school for it, they've been licensed.
Well, I have a concern for the legitimate business, who is an actual retailer.
Yeah.
We're disallowing him,
Okay,
like a massage therapy. I mean, you can go in our mall and walk down the mall, and you've got guys set up in the middle of the corridor doing
That's right.
massages.
Yeah, I know.
And so they wouldn't be able to do it in Lindon.
so let's talk about the
So there's gotta
secondary,
be some kind of a exception.
secondary use now.
They're probably not even licensed, and it's probably not even really considered a massage. In the middle of in the middle of the mall,
Yeah.
is it?
Rob made sure.
So, yeah, and maybe, you know, my experience in South Salt Lake is, you know, we would shut down, you know, the massage establishments for the illegal activity. They would then go to Midvale, they'd then go to Murray, they'd go to West Valley, then they were back to South Salt Lake. And it was just this cycle. And so, you know, that's the difficulty is how do we regulate a massage envy
Right.
versus the Hong Kong massage,
No, I don't know.
you know, that I
Yeah.
shut down. So, and that one was a trafficking one.
Yeah.
And
But you'll have
So-
these companies that do it in airports and.
So,
well, and I guess maybe if I look, you know, if we go to the home occupation, there's no way they can have a secondary purpose in the home occupation, right? I mean, so.
that wasn't considered as part of having, you didn't have to have a secondary with the home occupation.
Well, if this ordinance passed, right, we'd have to separate that out?
If we're going to allow it as a home occupation, we would have to make an exception for that secondary, if we're going to keep that secondary, purpose. Again, we're just looking at tools. I appreciate the massage envy example. Generally speaking, our experience, Mike and I, is that most of these massages are associated with another use, and that's why we were looking at this. Most of the legitimate massages, and the massage parlors, they're so focused, but I do see where you're coming from. There are some legitimate, big massage, so maybe we need to look at some way to refine that, Mike, a little bit.
well, don't massage therapists have to go through a licensing or certification?
Right. But it doesn't tell them how to run their business.
To be certified,
No.
you do.
Yeah,
But who knows if they're all certified?
Right. Could we do a conditional use permit? Or say if it's not going to be secondary, it's a condition? So a massage envy would come in and get a conditional use to be fully massage. But the ordinance said the standard is secondary. So the same thing, the home occupation, right, would get that conditional use permit to be not secondary and in a home. I know that's putting,
No,
a lo- but, but,
But I'm just trying to think, what conditions would you put on that?
Does it have to be a secondary service? The massage is a secondary, so the first service is something, or does it have to be, is the first thing could be they sell products, merchandise, and they do a massage? Is that,
So under this one, 75% would have to be the retail that you're talking about.
I see.
25% of the square footage of the building would be for the massage.
is it square footage, is it sales?
It's
Yeah.
20, it's square footage, 25% of the total square footage of the structure or facility.
Some spas do that as a side,
Right, right.
yeah, because a day spa has lots of different offerings, for sure.
They do. And like you say, a lot of chiropractors,
Yeah.
couple up, massage therapists.
Right.
We can research this and bring it back to you with some ideas.
I like that suggestion, if you're gonna use it as a primary business, that it come in as a conditional use permit. You raise a good question, Mike, on what conditions are we going to impose different than a secondary? But that's something that we could look into. I mean, what we're really looking for is to make sure that they're legitimate, you know, that they're not gonna, you know, bring in these, you know, get engaged in human trafficking and
Drugs.
that they're just legitimate. So I think that we could come up with some conditions, Mike. But let us look into this a little bit more.
I think we're all on that same page.
Yeah.
We want
Yeah.
to eliminate the illegal uses, but we don't want to hamper those who are legitimate.
well, I think that the two biggest conditions for me would be that the therapist is licensed and certified, and then also that they have a business permit from the city.
Yeah, those are pretty easy to get, though. You
Yeah,
know, that,
yeah.
everyone that I've shut down, they all were licensed.
Really?
It's not a filter.
Yeah, that's not a filter.
Okay, well, the rest of you'll have to come up with some others.
Sounds
yeah,
like you and Brian have to get free massages to really check it out and see if it's legit.
They have to solicit you.
See if they're gonna give you
Well,
up.
most of our home occupation permits that we issue and whatnot are the homeowner that has a trade or a skill that he's offering. It's not that they're bringing in people to offer a service.
Well, they
Yeah.
can't even with most of them,
Yeah,
right?
that's-
You
yeah,
can't
I
have
don't think so.
employees, and so
Yeah,
Have one employee.
you have one employee, but I think it's harder for trafficking to be happening with one employee
Yeah.
or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
With the home occupation,
That's the one thing maybe we want to change for home occupation massages, they don't have employees.
yeah, maybe make that a condition that it's just themselves.
So we may need to update some other sections of the code so to go along with this.
can we talk for a minute specific about the last one I think I'm aware of that happened? Because did they have licenses to do massage down there by the Ivory subdivision that,
Wasn't that down in Fieldstone at the time?
yeah,
No, they didn't. And I'm not going to pretend that passing this ordinance is going to shut everybody down and keep this type of thing from ever happening. But what it does do is having this type of ordinance, it gives us, you know, more tools
yeah,
to shut down when we discover it.
yeah.
And so, yeah, this is not a, you know, end all be all, but it does provide us with tools to address it if we discover that it's going on.
Yeah.
So where you're at right now, you're gonna do some additional research on it?
Yeah, if you
So-
want to make a motion to continue it with.
Yeah. Yeah, let's have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous.
Great. Can I
Okay.
just clarify, so I'm hearing the two main issues are home use and this, making it a secondary use. Those are the two main ones. Is there anything else that you guys saw as you went over it that raised concerns for you?
Well, it probably fell under the secondary use, but as far as a massage office, you know,
Right.
I don't,
It would fall under that.
yeah, I don't
Okay,
really,
great.
it wouldn't have to be secondary to anything else.
I mean, the
It could
only,
be just that.
the only other one that might be a problem is that they have to be closed to 10 to 7. I don't know if that is a problem, but
Yeah, I was just gonna point that out to you, see if anybody has a problem with that.
I don't.
I think it's okay, especially in a home, I mean, home occupation. You know, but like if a chiropractor has a after-hours visit, you know, and someone needs a massage, I mean, those would be my only things, right? I mean, if it is a secondary purpose and they need, you know, someone's been in an accident or something and that's a treatment they need, I guess that's my only concern with that, right? Is there an Instacare type situation for someone? But I'm fine with it on general. I just don't know if there needs to be some type of,
Okay, I'll look into emergency exceptions for the hour requirement and see if we can come up with something along those lines as well.
okay.
I think overall, you know, I think the direction is really good and what it's trying to prevent.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
Okay, well, do I have a motion to continue?
I don't see,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brian.
is there a motion on here?
There is.
Okay. I'll go ahead. I move to recommend that we continue ordinance amendment 2021-0 to let staff and Brian work on the issues we've addressed.
Okay, I have a motion to continue. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Well, gosh, I, just my own input, I think you've done a really good job for a place to start on it.
Yeah, that was Brian. He's researched a ton on this, so,
Well, and you've had a lot of personal experience with handling
yeah,
it.
I've got to shut down a lot of them, so,
Yeah.
not here, but,
Salt Lake's been kind of famous for that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
and then you've also got like the Reiki businesses that come in that have they'll say it's a healing power through your hands and they don't ever touch the person, but those were all just a front for the same thing, so.
Orm's had two last year that they've
This-
gone after. Yeah. They were fronts for prostitution.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, the last one I'm aware of was not that long ago. And supposedly the girls from out of country were living in the neighborhood across the street from me in a basement apartment. And I'd never ever seen them ever. So
Wow.
they must have been working all night long or something.
Yeah, they control those girls so well. They never let them out.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see them. A lot of times they make them live right in the facility. And if they don't, they put them in a car, they drive them there, and then they drive them straight back. And they just do not, it really is a modern day form of slavery.
And they drug them too, and so
Yeah.
they're very compliant and they're disoriented. So it's awful.
No, I think this is great work, Brian, and hopefully we can,
Thank you for all your work on it.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we're to our planning commission report. Does anyone have anything they would like to bring up?
I'd like to bring, especially Brian, is Brian still on?
Brian, are you still on?
Oh. Is he already gone? Maybe you can just address this. I had a few residents ask me about this, and I just wanted to kind of get input or, with this finally, hopefully, being done with the Norton property, with something being approved, but there's a general feeling that a decision was made by the city council because of some legal action, and that those decisions and those discussions, even though it should have been a public matter, were never discussed in a public meeting. And so I know they can't discuss the litigation, but I think sometimes at least the residents to me say, whoa, those city councilmen, from the meeting we've attended every meeting, their views have changed dramatically. The only thing that's happened in between is a non-public meeting. Just didn't know how that worked in this thing, if we ever get in that situation. That seemed, so I just wonder what Brian's view or your view on that, because I've had that mentioned to me.
And I'd probably refer you back to the meeting minutes. The mayor did a really good job of explaining that.
Right, that was brought up in the meeting the last
I
time.
thought the mayor,
And maybe I missed that part, but like I said, residents, I guess, okay.
yeah, that specific question was asked by,
Paul Hooley, I think.
the mayor talked about that. And I believe Brian did as well.
He did.
Send them the meeting minutes.
Okay, I'll go
Yeah.
back and read the
Or you can
meeting
even
minutes and
just
stuff.
watch it on
Watch
The
it,
YouTube video
right.
was on, it'd probably be good too.
How long does that YouTube video stay on,
They stay on for quite a while.
do they?
Okay. I'll have them go back, and I just wondering what the typical procedure where this, you know what I'm saying? I mean, or is there a procedure where something like that, well, there's new information that comes because of a lawsuit, but then that being discussed in a public format, not the lawsuit itself, but the debate about it or whatever.
Yeah, I think Brian talked about that on that.
Okay,
that
I'll go
meeting.
back.
I was here.
I
and it
purposely
was
stayed out
discussed.
of the melee because my name's been dragged through enough, and so I didn't want to get into it anymore. But
Well,
I just had
I
that
would-
question.
I
you
just
know.
remind them too, that they can go and watch all this stuff in public and not do a lot of hearsay. I mean, they can go
Well-
watch, it's all
Well,
available to
I
them.
guess
Can't be
they're-
a part of the legal,
They
No,
can't-
but they can go back and see what was said and how the meeting
Right.
was conducted.
right. And I
Right.
was here also.
I
Yeah.
guess they just
In
feel
the
like
outdoor meeting?
Not in
No,
the
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 closed
city
door.
council,
That's what they're,
their concern is that views changed in a closed door meeting, and they're not privy to that. They come to a meeting, they can see that views have changed dramatically. At least that's their perception, right? That a city councilman said this before it closed. They've been to every procedure. It's obvious that whatever happened in the closed door
Minds
meeting
changed.
changed their mind, but there was never an input or why that was, so then there's a sense of not being able to participate, I guess, is what they're saying, that even though it was explained in the meeting, there wasn't any real opportunity to counteract that at all.
Yeah, take a look at that, because I think the mayor and Brian addressed that, especially in the YouTube video, if you want to watch that.
Councilman Vanchery, do you have any input on that?
Few thoughts, yeah. The discussion primarily in the closed session, which Brian recommended that we engage in, had primarily to do, the lawsuit did have some effect. We could have said, fine, move forward. But the reality of the situation is, it wasn't a dramatic change of mind. We were literally this far apart. The only issue really had to do with the number of units.
Right, and I guess that's where maybe the citizens say, if that's really the case, why wasn't that change of mind done in a public setting?
Well, it was in a very real sense. We had another public hearing, both from the planning commission and the city council, where the residents had the opportunity to come and ask the questions. Cole Hooley sat right there and did ask the questions, numerous questions. He started out a little bit, I won't say adversarial, but he was fishing pretty hard, and decision wasn't necessarily made in the closed-door meeting.
And maybe more of it comes back to, you know, maybe even a comment that you made, Mike, was once in here as well. The decision's been made, kind of. I mean, it was alluded to because of the lawsuit, the decision was already going to go. And that was in our meeting before the open meeting and I think that's some of the concerns is there's been these, that it was alluded to that was the reason. And so that's a little bit of the concern there.
Well, yeah, perhaps I misspoke on that. I didn't mean to suggest. I knew that we still had to go through a public hearing both with the planning commission and the city council. And it was by no means a done deal. Someone could have changed their mind.
Right.
And so please, forgive me in that regard. I certainly didn't mean to cite that, insinuate that we cut the deal at the closed door meeting because that wasn't the case.
I believe
Someone still-
Brian's back on as well.
What was the density that was finally approved?
8.4.
8.4.
8.4.
10.
Yeah.
So
And-
I'm not sure.
No, it's more like I said, it's just, a lot of the residents talk to individual council members, and I think maybe the tone of the conversation individually, even when some of them talked to me, was, well, I can't do anything anymore because of the lawsuit. I mean, without those words being said exactly, that was the tone that was given to the residents. And so it felt like,
Well, it certainly figured into the equation. I mean, again, we had two choices. Brian advised us wisely, sagely. We could very well have moved forward with the lawsuit, recognizing some of the possibilities that we thought we had a good foot to stand on, but if we would have lost that lawsuit, no insurance would cover it. We'd have to pay it all out of the city coffers. That was certainly one consideration. The other one was, candidly, we just weren't that far apart on the decision. I mean, publicly, we had worked out, everything that everybody knew what the concerns were. And so that's the way it ended up being. It certainly wasn't a done deal. We all agreed on what would allow it to move forward. Again, once we got into the public meetings, and I do believe, and Mike, I hope I'm not speaking out of line of Brian, but given the time that this had been taken over a year, and the back and forth, I think Brian and Mike came up with a very legal and common sense way to not have them wait 6 months to have to petition again for the project. And I think that's what got it done sooner than later. And, based on that, that's why we had the public hearings and the public comments. I was a little bit surprised, really, there wasn't that many.
no, I don't think it's more the end result, it's maybe more the process, and maybe we can learn from the process if there was anything. Like I said, there's just people that, maybe what that number was to move forward, why wasn't that hashed out where people could see how that was hashed out? Those are the comments I'm hearing, right? That if something was hashed out that, we'll agree to 8.5, or we'll agree to whatever, that was never hashed out in a public forum. And so there's some people that, like I said, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I've been listening to this whole thing, just trying to figure out why my mic would not turn back on. I apologize for that. We are limited in what we can talk about in details because of the rules related to closed meetings. And I know that you appreciate that. But I would point out to those citizens, if they go back and listen to the original application, we held 3 to 4 meetings, and density was the whole issue through all of those meetings. Yes, there was the question of 570, but we held that specific meeting, and it was clear that the majority of the council said that road needed to stay open. But after that, the issue focused and turned to density. And if you go back and listen, you will hear, some of the council members indicating that to around 8. And when you go back and look at where we ended up as compared to where we started out, I think that reflects that understanding. We thought that it was best, instead of just going back to the application and bringing it back and approving it, that it was best that we make them go through a new application so that there would be ample opportunity for everyone to express their opinions. And so that's why we went the route we did, so that there would still be opportunities for everybody to give their input and to have that discussion in the open public meeting. Because you're absolutely right, we cannot and we did not make any decisions in a closed meeting. I did negotiate with the attorneys for the applicant multiple times, trying to understand where we were coming from our legal position, which again, I indicated in the last public meeting. I thought we had a very good defense to this lawsuit, but their whole lawsuit was focused on what's called zoning estoppel, saying that they had been taken through a process that lasted almost a full year and had, gotten different things approved at different stages, and then at the end, they didn't get the application. I felt like because it was a zone change, we have a lot of discretion, because they were asking for a density, that they were asking for something, allowing the road into the commercial. They were asking something outside of what the ordinance expressly allowed. Now, the ordinance did allow us to grant those exceptions, but doesn't mandate us to give those exceptions. And because they were asking for things outside of that we had our discretion was even broader. It's not absolute discretion. We need to understand and appreciate that. But based on those things, the council looked at it and decided it was best to rehear the application rather than risk litigation and all the costs associated with it. So that's where it's coming from. But I think it's important that we let people know very clearly that we cannot and did not make decisions in that closed meeting. We discussed litigation strategies, potential outcomes, strengths and weaknesses of both our defense and the merits of their case, and those are things that I can't get into outside of that closed meeting.
No. Thank you, Brian. That just gives me some, I don't have a problem with the end result or what happened. I just, a little bit of the process.
And I know individuals were certainly frustrated, and I appreciate that.
And I feel sorry for certain people running that this is, that this is gonna have an undertone for them but.
Right. So anyway, I really like the recommendation to go back and have people watch the mayor's discussion and our discussion in that meeting, and hopefully that will help them understand where we were coming from.
And I listened to it that night.
Right.
And it was a very good explanation. So, okay, anyone else? I wondered if we have any updates on the rehab center on 200 South, the one by Dry Canyon.
Brian, do you want to address that one too?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Sharon was asking about any updates on the rehab center.
On 200 South by Dry Canyon?
I spoke with their attorney a couple weeks ago. They are still in the process of investigation. They have not submitted a new application. You're probably aware that there is litigation going on between Mr. Harper, the group home operator, and the Fair Care Lindon group. That's a group of homeowners up in that neighborhood. They're fighting over the CC&Rs. The Fair Care, the homeowners up there are arguing that CC&Rs prohibit this type of activity. So Mr. Harper's attorney has filed a motion for a declaratory judgment saying that the CC&Rs cannot stop them, they do not prohibit it, and frankly that they don't even apply because they had not been enforced and they're being selectively enforced. But the city is not involved in that litigation at all. And we're I imagine that they will try to get that litigation resolved before they file an application. But at the current moment, we don't know when, or frankly, even if they will actually file a new application there.
I'm just curious, and this is just a general question. Can CCNRs stop this type of facility? Not this one specifically, but just generally.
Yeah. My opinion is that they cannot. There has been, I don't know of a case law that specifically addresses that issue, but there has been case law that specifically addresses when CCNRs try to exclude people based on their race, their religion, those types of
Disability,
characteristics, and they have been found to be, unenforceable as against public policy. I assume that will be the result in this instance as well.
Well, then where they're dealing with addiction recovery,
Right.
isn't that considered is it a disability?
Yeah, that's considered as a disability, and that's why I think that they will not be enforceable, even if they are found to be written so as to do it. I think that there is a very strong likelihood that under the Americans with Disability Act and under the Fair Housing Act,
Right,
those would be found to be not enforceable.
okay, that's interesting, yeah, because I don't live in Canberra, but because I live above the canal, I am hearing quite a bit on it.
Yeah, but I do give the caveat that I've not done the research on that.
Sure, no, I
Both
just,
parties have very able and good attorneys working
Right.
that. And so I'm sure that it will be fully and completely vetted before the court.
absolutely. I just, not, like I said, not on this situation specifically, but just generally, can CCNRs prohibit?
Yeah,
Okay,
I would think the answer's no.
okay. I don't have anything else. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up?
Is our next meeting October 12th?
It is, and I will not be here that night.
I possibly won't either.
So Steve, I guess you're conducting the
I
meeting.
think, is Scott going to be gone too? That one, I think he
Be
said,
gone to the
so-
till the 15th.
Right, that's fall break week. That's why, are you gonna be here, Mike?
Yes, I'll be here.
Okay.
But we'd need to make sure Mike, Rob,
Got a quorum.
Steve, and Jared, you're all here.
I will be here. I'll be leaving the next day, though, on vacation.
Okay.
So for sure, Scott will be gone.
I will be gone.
Yeah, and I will be gone.
Tomorrow
I should be here.
or Thursday, whether or not we'll have the Tilia Court on there. I thought it'd be on this meeting. That's
You
the
will be here?
townhome development behind Lindon Nursery. But they had some storm drainage problems and stuff for the project that our engineers didn't feel comfortable moving that forward. So I'll know tomorrow if new plans are submitted and that can move forward, so.
Yeah, I wish that we could have a full quorum when that comes, but I guess as long as a full group. I guess as long as there's 4, the meeting needs to go forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a meet the candidate night?
October 14th.
No, I'll be gone.
Lousy time to have it.
I know, I think it's unfortunate when they did that, because that is fall break.
It's fall break and people will not be around.
Some of the candidates could not make it other dates.
Oh, okay, so
we
you-
had to, yeah, we tried to change it, but,
Oh, wow.
YouTube.
yeah, you can, it'll be broadcast.
Is
on
it gonna be a open session or is it gonna be scripted as far as
We'll have
questions?
some prepared questions.
So it'll be scripted
Yeah.
questions.
That they'll be able to review, but we're gonna pick 4 or 5 of those questions, so.
And what time is that on?
7,
7.
here in this room here.
Great. Is this room big
Remind
enough?
me of the council candidates.
We have Jennifer Price and Van Broderick and Jake Hoyt are the incumbents. And
Jennifer
Cole
Price.
Hooley
Cole Hooley and Jennifer Price are the
are the.
Yeah, I
new
was
ones.
gonna say Jennifer Price isn't an incumbent.
No,
No, she's not.
Okay,
she lives in
And then
Canberra.
Sean Moon, of course, and Carolyn Lindbergh from.
uh-huh, okay.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to bring up?
just wanted to talk about training. We need to get you guys some hours of training. I believe Sharon and Renee, since they went to the conference, I think all you need is the general powers and duties, so, and that's what everybody needs, so we probably need to, one of these upcoming meetings, when we have everybody, we need to do that general powers and duties training. I'll probably have to ask Brian to help with that as well.
He does such a good job, let's have him do it again.
Yeah.
And then, if you attend 12 meetings, which I think you all have, that's another hour. So we'll probably need you to look at 2 more hours of training. So you can do that on the Utah League of Cities and Towns website. There's some training links. So I'll send out some
It
links.
can be done online.
Yeah,
Okay, that was my question, because
so.
I'd love to go to one of these conferences, but I just can't swing it during the day.
Yeah, so I'll send out some links that you can watch as well, and then just send me an email saying, hey, I watched, I got my 2 hours in and stuff.
And then you'll just schedule the powers thing.
Yeah, or we can even do like we could take 30 minutes and do one on variances or conditional use permits, and do another 30 minutes at another meeting.
Yeah.
We would have to schedule those soon, but we don't have very many big items coming in the next few months.
When we
so-
have a shorter agenda,
Yeah, we'd make
night,
sure
then
it's a
let's do a
shorter
little
agenda
training.
that night, yeah,
I'd love to see one on conditional use.
okay?
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and as far as the Norton property, you aren't expecting a site plan on that.
Yes,
Yeah,
that would be site plan,
When, I
And-
know you're expecting it, but how soon?
Maybe next meeting.
yeah, maybe next meeting.
On the Norton property?
Oh, sorry, I'm getting those confused.
Yeah, that would be on
Norton,
the,
they haven't applied.
on the Lindon Nursery.
Yeah, Lindon
and that-
Nursery would be next one, sorry.
I guess that's a question on the Norton property. Can they bring the site plan and everything before the 25%? I mean, right, they can get it all approved.
Yeah, they
They just
can.
can't pull building permits, if I understand,
Until they've got a building permit
until
on
they
the other.
basically break ground on the,
25%,
of the 25%.
yep.
I mean, as many concerns as we've had over that, I actually think it's gonna be a nice
Be
development.
real nice.
I'll save my comments until after the record, but I'm not gonna make, but,
Actually, turn it off.
when we're done, I can, if you wanna know my opinion, I'll tell you my opinion.
Okay. Well, do we have a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks,
Any
Brian.
opposed? Okay.
Okay, thank you, have a good night.
Thank you, Brian.
No, it's been interesting, though, I've sat in our soccer
Is this
Hey,
turned off?
Commissioner,
Just
I do
a
not
minute.
have it turned off yet.
It's not off yet.
Who seconded the motion?
I did.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.